Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking about Lesson 10, Elapsed Time. So we're going to be talking about elapsed time in a calendar as well as time on a clock. So example 1, a century is how many decades? Well, we know that a century equals 100 years, and we know that a decade equals 10 years. So to find out how many decades are in a century, I'm going to take the number of years in a century, 100 years, divided by 10 years in a decade, which will equal 10 decades. So there are 10 decades in one century. I can also do this by looking at a number line. Okay, here's my 100 years, and if I count it by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. This is 0, we don't count. 10, 20, 30, etc. If I count my unit segments, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unit segments. And in this, each unit segment counts as a decade. So there are 10 decades in one century. Okay, let's move on to example 2. Example 2, according to this calendar, June 8th, 2014 is what day of the week? So here's our calendar. We know that we start with Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We look for the 8th. Here it is. We go straight up and we know that it is a Sunday. So June 8th of 2014, which really isn't that far away, will be a Sunday. Okay, same thing with any date in the calendar. You just find the date, go straight up, and that tells you what day of the week it is. All right, example 3. The clock shows the time that Rick's first morning class ends. He woke up 2 hours before this time. His lunch period begins 3 hours after this time. What time did Rick wake up, and what time does Rick's lunch period begin? So we have 2 questions here. We have question 1, what time did he wake up? And we have question 2, what time does his lunch period begin? So let's start with question 1. Okay, we know that he woke up, or his class ends at 9:05 a.m. It's the morning. This says that he woke up 2 hours before this time. Now, I can't just subtract. I have to look at the hours, and I'm going to back up 2 hours. So it's like reversing the clock. Going backwards 1 hour would be 8:05, and a second hour would then be 7:05 a.m. Okay, that's a 5. So it is like subtracting 2 from the hours, and we leave the minutes alone. So he woke up at 7:05 a.m. But now it asks, what time did Rick's lunch period begin? And his lunch period begins 3 hours after this time. So we have 9:05 a.m. Now we're going forward in time. So 1 hour would be 10:05, another hour would be 11:05, and a third hour would then be 12:05. But we have switched. Anything after 12 now becomes p.m. Okay, again, this is like adding 3 hours. We leave the minutes alone though. So remember, whenever you go before, you're taking time away, and after a time is adding it. Okay, so these are your two answers. Lunch begins at 12:05 and he woke up at 7:05. All right, let's look at example 4. Example 4, Moesha and her friends attended a movie that began at 6:55 p.m. The movie ended at 9:05 p.m. How long was the movie? So, it ends at 9:05. It starts at 6:55. Now, some of you are going to say, well, just subtract, which you can't quite do because there are only 60 minutes in an hour. So it doesn't really work to just subtract. So instead, we need to count forward. So 6:55 to 7:55 gets me 1 hour. 7:55 to 8:55 gets me another hour. And then 8:55 to 9:05 is only 10 minutes. Because 8:55 to 9 is 5 minutes, and 9 o'clock to 9:05 is 10 minutes. So now I can add these up, and the movie was 2 hours and 10 minutes. If I tried to subtract this, watch what would happen. 5 minus 5 is 0. Can't do minus 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. And 8 minus 2 is 2. So this would look like 2 hours and 50 minutes, but it's not. It's actually only 2 hours and 10 minutes. There's a difference of 40 minutes. So you cannot just subtract. This doesn't work. You need to figure out by counting forward. Okay? All right, that's it for your examples. Do your lesson practice, and I will see you in the morning.